We're going to engage our scientists with Jamboard. First, let's talk about what is Jamboard. I've said it 1,000 times, but someone in the room is thinking, what is it? What are the expectations and how do I use it? That's pretty much what this session is going to cover this evening. So number one with Jamboard, it is Google's whiteboard tool made for student collaboration. So I'm sure inside of my what is engagement chart, there were a few people that said collaboration, conversation. Well, this tool is good for that. So it is Google's whiteboard tool made for collaboration. How do I access Google Jamboard? Well, for one, Jamboard is free. Free 99 is my favorite tool of all. You can use this web-based, meaning you can log on to your website on Google Chrome and access it, or you can download the free app on your device. Either one works well. So let me show you how to find Google Jamboard. If you're on Chrome, hopefully you all see my screen. You're going to go to Jamboard. You can log in and type Google Jamboard. It'll take you there. Or you can go to what we call the waffle, scroll down, and you will see the Jamboard tab. And here's another trick, guys. If you don't use Jamboard often, it's going to be closer to the bottom. But since you're going to probably start using it a little more often, just press on it and drag it up so you can find it. So I want mine to be a little further up to the top. So now the next time I go to my waffle, Jamboard is going to be a little closer to my account. So I'm not looking all over the place. So that's a little tidbit for you. So now that we found Jamboard, if you're a beginner with Jamboard, you're not going to see all of these Jamboards. What you will see is a blank white screen waiting for your creation, and you're going to see an orange circle at the bottom where it says new jam. You're going to select that new jam. Starting off, it's untitled. Give it a title. Test. I'm just going to name it test. So let's talk about what the features are. There's always an undo and a redo. You have your zoom. Set background. This is cool, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but these are just some generic features. Dots, line paper, graph paper if we're doing some graphing, gray graph, a blue board, and a chalkboard. So these are the generic ones, but you also can add an image, and this is good for a background, and you'll see why as we get further in the session, that you can make a photo. Let me search stars. You can make a photo your background if you want it to be pretty. And I want you to think a little bit creatively a little later on why we want something to stay in our background. So now that I have a background, what else do I have? I have some pen features here where we can write. Students can write. Eraser. Go back to that pen. All our little markers. You have your arrow. Sticky note. This is where it's at, where you can put your notes. Students can come on and they can add their notes. So if you're asking a question, they can add their sticky notes. You can move it. Students can move it. You can add an image. Maybe if I want students to give me a model of something, they can add an image, something they've created. They can take a selfie, Google search, things already in their photos. They can drop it here. We have shapes. Different shapes. So if you're wanting them to construct something, doing anything with shapes, that's an option. You have a text box as well. And of course, you can't see that because it's hidden, but you can change the color if you want to. So much you can do just with the generic stuff. And I haven't even gotten started yet, but these are the features, the basic features of Jamboard. And here's your laser. And if you don't like any of this, undo it or clear the frame and you can start back over. Those are basic generic features of Jamboard. Right here, You can have multiple pages of multiple things. You can duplicate a page or you can delete a page. Up to you. Let's go back. So how do I use the features in Google Jamboard? So we basically went through a lot of those features, but I want to keep a couple magic numbers in your mind. 50, 20. 50 students can be on at once per Jamboard. So when you share a Jamboard, 50 students can be on at once. So think about that. If you teach a large load of students, you may want to think about how many Jamboards you want to make, because having 50 students on at once is your max. And you can have 20 slides per Jamboard. So if you're thinking about doing some group work, you can have up to 20 slides, but 50 students on at once. So keep that in mind. But before you do anything with Jamboard, once I showed you the features, I want you to think about, how am I going to introduce this to my students? Before I show you the science behind Jamboard, some science Jamboards, I want you to think about how you're going to present this to students. And I recommend, just like anything, set your expectations first, because I'm sure you saw, as I was moving around in Jamboard, all the potential things your students could do when you give them that Jamboard. So think about how you're going to set expectations. If you are near it, I have a Google Jamboard that is free for you, only because I didn't create this one. I found this one, but it's really good. Here's the QR code for it, and I will have it multiple times on multiple slides. But I want to show you this Jamboard where a teacher made, where she is showing us how to set expectations first. And this is what her Jamboard looks like. So before she gets started, and this is actually what I presented to teachers in my own district. Before we get started, here are the expectations. Always do your best. No scribbling, please. Don't delete or move students or teacher work. Stay focused and extra sparkly. Be respectful. And I actually added another expectation, because I like to give feedback on Jamboards. I would tell teachers and tell students, I am the only person that can use the pink sticky note. When you see a pink sticky note, that means it's a message from me. You don't have to be that strict. And I also ask that students, or whoever is presenting, even teachers that I present to, I ask that they put their name on there before you do anything, so I can know where the information came from. She gives a practice, and like I said, if you don't want this, you can delete this, but she gives students a chance to practice using the pencil and highlighters before they get started. And there's a reason why we're doing this first. Typing, so those features I just showed you, she's giving those to them. Shapes, build a person with shapes. Don't forget to add colors. So she's giving students a chance to play with the features and being very focused and particular. And here's why. Because you already know, you give students something new and we don't give them structure, they're going to go all over the place. And I'd rather them do it on a practice assignment like this than my actual science Jamboard. And then I'm upset and I want to throw the whole Jamboard away. So let them get that out right here. Hi, Kevin. I see somebody got my QR code. They're in there. And look at that. Upload a picture. And it shows you how. Please don't do the following. So she's giving expectations. And then at the end, she gives a Jamboard pledge. I promise to be respectful on Jamboard and be a careful jammer with my peers. So this is kind of their way of getting an opportunity to practice and giving us a pledge of what our expectations are. You don't have to use this one. You can make something better, but this is just to give you an idea that you want to do something. All right. And again, if you see this QR code, it will be to that expectation Jamboard, and it is yours. Just make a copy. So how do I present this information with those expectations? It really depends on your teaching style. So option one, here are the three options of how you could present those expectations of Jamboard. You can tell them up front, just like the slide deck, just like the Jamboard I just showed you. Here are the rules, here are the expectations. This is what we're doing, this is what we're not doing. Set those expectations ahead of time and include how you want them to respond. That's one way to set the expectations. Another way to set the expectations is through collaboration. Create a practice Jamboard. Let the students explore the features for the first time. Don't tell them anything. Just give it to them, let them practice, and let them do whatever. Expect them to do the crazy things that we know they're going to do. But from that learning experience, come together and develop the norm and agreements as a class. We shouldn't move each other's things. We shouldn't scribble on somebody else's work, because when they're going through the experience and they're going through the norms and agreements, they tend to take ownership. So if that's your style, go with that. And then let them figure it out. There's another style. Some people, they don't want the structure. They're just like, here's the Jamboard, we're going to run with it. Whatever your style is, just have something in place on how you're going to present Jamboard to your students for the first time. So again, you can let them figure it out on their own. The structure in me, that's going to drive me crazy. Collaboration, you guys go through it together and come up with your norms as a class. Or I don't have time for that. This is what you're doing. This is what you're not doing if you want to participate in this Jamboard. Whichever one works for you, works for you. Just have something in place. All right. Am I going too fast? Perfect. All right. So we talked about the expectations. We briefly looked at the features. So now, like I like to do, I don't like to just talk about a tech tool. I want to align it to my science content. And I oftentimes don't see people do that, where you could take a tool and align it to my content, because science, we're special. We're very special. We move special. So this is important to me that you guys are getting this. How to use Jamboard in science. I have created multiple Jamboards that I'm going to go through with you so you can see what they look like and what the examples are. So you're going to see me moving a lot. Go back to my Jamboard. The first one is it a model? If you are familiar with Uncovering Student Ideas by Paige Keeley, one of my favorite probes that she uses is called Is It a Model? I don't know about you, but inside of our standards, students are expected to construct a model, do this with a model, develop a model. But have we taken the time to tell students what an actual model is? Because just like the word engagement, model, the word model has a lot of misconceptions. So I like to start off with this card sort. So here's an idea with Jamboard. You can make a card sort. Notice in the back, this is a background. So this doesn't move. Let you in. And I get a card sort and I have to decide, is this a model or is it not a model? Making a replica of a human heart out of clay. Is that a model? Not a model? Not sure. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to say it is a model. Watching a live video of a volcano. So that's what students are going to do. Same here. I like the link to. Okay, I'll drop that in there for y'all. No problem. All right. So this is a card sort. So think about card sorts that you have, and I can show you how to make this type of card sort. And I'm doing this wrong on purpose. I feel like people are judging me. Don't worry, I'm good. So students are going to use this card sort. And after they have figured out where the card sorts go, they have to give you a definition. Based on your card sort, just moving it around, a model is what? So this is an example of a Jamboard you can use. And notice I have group 1 because I want different groups to work on it together. So that's where you duplicate and you can have different groups and you can assign them. All right. So this one is one of my favorite probes to use. And one example again with Jamboard is to create a card sort. Okay, let me see another one. Another idea, another Jamboard that I've created is called roller coaster. I don't know if I have, yes, I will share the expectations Jamboard, not a problem. I don't know if I have any physical science teachers in here today, but potential and kinetic energy is one of our big ones. And I'm sure you have seen this question on every test or everywhere, but this is a good warm up. Instead of asking them, you can show them and let them interact with this particular Jamboard. I just took an image of a roller coaster, got some really cool fonts, and I'm basically going to ask the students, where's the greatest potential and kinetic energy on this roller coaster? So the students can get their sticky note. They're going to put their name on it. I'm going to be Miss Melissa today. And she's going to tell me where she thinks the greatest potential is. So she'll say PE, and she'll say here. And then we're going to see where the greatest kinetic is. So imagine all of your students coming together trying to figure it out. And then you're seeing some students are putting it here, some are putting it there. That's a formative assessment. That's telling you information you already need to know, and you didn't have to do a multiple choice. You can also, what guys, duplicate the slide. You can even make this an individual homework assignment. Maybe you don't want them to collaborate, and I just want to know what Miss Melissa knows or what Shari knows. So I'll show you how to share those. This is another one that I created. Water cycle. If I have some earth science people in here, I have one for you too. Let's talk about the water cycle. Where is that one? Here we go. The water cycle activity. You have a few activities here. Oh, we're not going to open? That's how you feel? That's okay. I have two of them. There we are. What is the most important part of the water cycle? That's how you started off with your students. What is the most important part of the water cycle? So then students can put their answers, or they just put their name. I see Dion is here. So Dion is going to say condensation. And then who else is here? Sheila is going to say evaporation, and so forth. So I can see what everyone is thinking. And then after that, I'm going to collect my thoughts. Now I've created groups. All my people that said condensation, you're going to come to this slide and you're going to collect your evidence, and you're going to justify your answers on the condensation side, because it's going to be time to have a nice little debate. Why do you think condensation is the most important part of the water cycle? Using the sticky notes, using your pictures, you're going to drop your answers here. Same with my evaporation group, my precipitation group. And then that's when you call the class together. You have your representatives, and you guys, then you let them hash it out. You let them construct that argumentation. That's one of our practices. But you're doing it through Jamboard. You're getting them to collect that evidence, CER, right? So after that, after we've gone through, we hashed it out, we had the conversation, let the students create their own water droplet story here. We have a nice little picture here. You don't have to use this, but notice I use this as the background, so they can't move this. That's why that setting things as a background is important, because if it was just an image, they would be able to move it just like they're moving my water droplet. Very important. So create your own water droplet story. This is fun because the water droplet can start here or it can start here. And they have to develop that story for you based on where they had their water droplet. I'm typically not an earth science person, but I did enjoy playing with this one. All right, what else do I have? So we did model, roller coaster, checking the time, water cycle, distance time graph, physical science people, we're back. Let's go back. We know our students, they can calculate speed if we let them use the calculator. They can do distance over time, but can they actually recognize that a graph tells a story? There's a Jamboard for that. Distance from home and time. Students can create a story for this graph. Based on what we see, they should be able to create a story. And you're not even telling them anything. This is a good formative assessment. Can you interpret this graph and create a story? Here's another one. Journey to the bus stop. I took a screenshot of, I use the snipping tool as my BFF. I took a screenshot of a worksheet that we typically use, and I made it, guess what, guys? My background. It is my background. So now they can annotate over this information. They want to do some plotting. Look at that. Get some real good stuff done there. They want to highlight. They can annotate all on that to get the information they need. What else do I have with this one? You know I love a good card sort. So this looks a little busy, but I promise you this is going to have your students going for a while. They have to figure out which time graph goes with which interpretation, which is the story, and which table it goes with. So they should get this, and this. These three things should all match. That is going to take them a while. So it's up to you if you want to give them all of these at once, or you just want to give them a few at a time. But these card sorts here, the time graph, the stories, and the actual table should all match. And they have to be able to look at that information and figure out where it goes. And at the bottom, I have the resource where I got this from. All I did was take a PDF and I used the snipping tool and made them as images, dropped it on here. Remember where I talked about with a background? I used a really cool background and dropped these little images on there. It took no time at all. So this is something you can use. I'm sure many of us seen this before. And that's it with the graph of a story. I'm sure as we're going through this, I'm sure more of you are thinking of ideas of things that you already have right now that you can turn into a Jamboard. That's what this is all about. What else do I have? Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune. Anybody like Wheel of Fortune? All right, let's talk about the Wheel of Fortune game. This is the Wheel of Fortune of comprehension. Perhaps this is a little station where you want students who may be done with their work and they just want to play, or you want to do a class activity. The category is matter, going back to physical science, but the category is matter. I'm thinking of a word. The students can guess the letter. They'll say, I want to buy a vowel. Okay, A. And you can come up with your own rules with that. There's one A. T. There's one T. I want to buy another vowel. Oh. Who's the first person that could solve this puzzle? One more letter left. Yes, Donna. Woo! And if you need multiple letters, you just duplicate. Not a problem. All right. And then, of course, you can just put it back where you got it from. Do not clear the frame, because if you clear the frame, all of these things are going to disappear. Now my puppy wants to leave. All right, y'all, he's been sitting in here quietly this whole time. So you can do multiple activities. Let me see. Force and motion as an activity. You have a word that you're thinking of. Energy and so forth. All right. So that's the Wheel of Fortune one. Let's see what else I have. Let's see. Formative assessments. Give me a second. Let me get my dog out of here. All right. Formative assessments. Let's see what that one looks like. How we doing so far? Will cleaning the frame make the letters disappear? Yes. Yes, they will. Yes, they will indeed. So definitely do not do that. And then I would also say for this one, I wouldn't share it. I would only make that a view only. Give me 1 second. All right. Let's see what the next one is. Formative assessments. That's right. Formative assessments. Where are you? Where are you? Hopefully I saved that one. I may not have that. Oh, here it is. So these are just some generic ones here. Another page, Keely, if you use uncovering student ideas, I took a snippet of it. And when we say the snipping tool, if you use Windows, and I'm on a MacBook right now, so mine is Shift Command 5, where I just take a snippet of the page or image. But the snipping tool on the Windows device, if you go to the Windows button and you type in the word snipping tool, it's going to look like a pair of scissors. You can take a image. You can actually take a picture of an image from the snipping tool, save it as an image, and you can set it up as your background. I apologize. I am on a MacBook, but let me just show you what that tool looks like. Snipping tool for Windows, if you're on a Windows device. It'll look just like this. And just type that in. And when you open that snipping tool, you can take an image of a worksheet, a picture, whatever, save it, and you will be able to put it into your Jamboard. Just make sure you save the file. So I'm gonna go back to that. So same with that. I took this page Keely probe here as a formative assessment where students have to read and determine which the students in Jerome's group shared the following ideas. So we have to decide what their best answer is. And students can pretty much pick their sticky note and they can type who they think is the right answer. Circle the name of the student you think has the best idea. If you want to give this as an individual assignment for homework, just as a formative assessment, students can do this. And then explain why they think Dev is the best answer. Something like this is a formative assessment. It gives you so much information, probably more than what a 20 question multiple choice is. So think about that when it comes to grading as well. So this is another example of a formative assessment. And all I did was took an image of it. Jot spot. So this particular formative assessment, maybe you have a question on your board and you just want anonymous answers. And the answers is A, B, C, or D, or whatever you wanted to say. Students can put their answer there. I think the answer is A. And you can give an assigned number where Jennifer is student 1. So I know that Jennifer said the answer is A. So this is keeping it personal where the students aren't embarrassed. You may have students who are nervous about saying their answers. Can you assign? Yes, we're going to talk about how to do these with Google Classroom. Absolutely. So here's another example of formative assessments. I don't have anything there. And 4 corners. You do 4 corners in your classroom. Well, you can also do it with Jamboard. Simple enough. Graffiti wall. If you're just wanting to make a parking lot for questions, students can put it there. Or if you want to do social emotional learning and you want to get a post check of how students are feeling, you can do it there as well. 3 things. So before you go as a formative assessment, what are 3 things you learned today? Or maybe give me 1 thing you learned, 1 thing you're confident about, and 1 thing you're nervous about. But however you want to do the 3 things, that's something. And a virtual CER template, guys. So students can put their claim, their evidence, and their reasoning all right here. And here are just some interesting commands that can help you. Control, if you're on a Windows device, if you hit Control Alt Shift key, the sticky note will come up just like that. Apple device, you have Shift Option Command P, sticky note comes up. So if you're a person that's all about using commands, I am not, but I want to put those options there. Okay. So looking at the time, we're moving good. These are just a few Jamboards that I've created. Most of these I've created. A few I've found, but majority of these I've created because, to be honest with you guys, there are not a lot of people who make Jamboards for science. People aren't checking for us like that, and that makes me sad. So that's why I spend a lot of time trying to do that for us. So let's talk about some of those questions that are in the chat box, because actually those are part of this presentation. Ways to share Jamboard. So you saw different ideas. So let's talk about how you share Jamboards. If you are using Google Classroom, you have three options. You would just select the link when you go to share in Jamboard. Let me go to any Jamboard. And while I'm at it, let me do this for you all. I'll model it right now. You share. And here's where it's important. If you want people to view it, that means they can't manipulate it. All they can do is look at it. But if you want them to edit, they can move things around. And you copy the link. But in this case, I want you to make a forced copy. That means I don't want you to mess with my Jamboard. I want you to have your own. So right there, that question mark, hopefully you're looking, right there next to edit behind the question mark, I'm going to just mess with that and type the word copy. And it's going to prompt you to make your own copy of the Jamboard. And what I'm going to do, that expectations one everybody asked for, I'm going to drop that in the chat, and it's going to prompt you to make your own copy. And if you need help with that again on how to make people make their own copy, we can talk a little later. But let's get back to that. All right. But if you're using Google Classroom, you can add the link under add links. And you have three options. It's going to ask you three things. Do you want the students to view the file, edit the file, or make a copy for each student? And we're going to talk about instructional strategies of what these three things mean for you instructionally as you're doing that. If you decide you want to do a student view file, this means the teacher, you're the only one that can manipulate that Jamboard. So that means you're deciding, I want to use this as a whiteboard for demo. I will probably use that feature for the Wheel of Fortune one that I showed you. I don't want them messing with that. I want to be the only one that messes with that. So that would be a student view. They can't touch it. They can't manipulate it. All they can do is watch me. And you can also use this as a whiteboard for demo. So maybe I want to show them how to solve a distance time problem. Maybe I want them to model for them what I want them to do. You can also pre-record lessons showing your Jamboard lesson. So if you're using Screencastify or some type of screen recording platform, you can use that through the student view. And all you do is give them the link. What can the student do? Nothing but watch you. So, but keep in mind, there's a time and place for that type of setting, but keep in mind that Jamboard is designed for collaboration. Let's see. If I want the student to edit the file, what happens here? When I share students to edit, that means the teacher, you can manipulate the Jamboard, and so can the students. We all in there moving things around. I've created groups and I want the students to move things around. The students can delete. So it's very important to make sure the important things you want are your background, because they can't delete that. They have the same rights as the teacher for the most part, because it's a whiteboard, it's a collaboration board. So, that's the nature of this tool. Here's the only caveat. No tool is perfect, but I like to let people know what are some issues. It's not okay. You can't tell who did it. So if somebody wrote something crazy in class, you can't tell who the person is. So that's why it's going to be very important to set those expectations. You can see little heads while they're in the board, while they're on the Jamboard. You can see little heads. Basically, they'll be their icons, but you can't see like revision history like you can in a Google Doc where it tells you Jennifer wrote a bad word on the Jamboard. You can't see that, but you can see that Jennifer was on Jamboard slide 4 and she did add something. So keep that in mind. And you can always restore. So that's under edit. If you want to make a copy for each student, you can do that through 2 ways. You can do it through Google Classroom, just like the option I showed you. And that means create copies for each student. You will have many copies. Keep that in mind. When you make a copy for each student, everyone will have their own copy. So it's like an individual worksheet, but you will have to look at multiple copies of each student's work. Each student will have their own individual sheet and they cannot see other students' work. So when you make a copy for each student, it is designed to be an individual assignment. Okay, yep, might be a little bit of traffic. So keep this in mind. Using Jamboard without Classroom, you have to make a forced copy like what I just showed you there. So it might be a lot of people trying to get in and get that Jamboard at once. So just give it a little moment. All right. So we talked about the ways to share for Jamboard: view, edit, make a copy. Each of these versions have a different focus, a different intention. So be intentional about why you're sharing that Jamboard and what you want students to do with it. So you have that there. Here are a couple fancy Jamboard tips. Is there a way to copy a slide from one Jamboard to another? Unfortunately, like basically copy the slide from this Jamboard and copy it to another, not like that. It doesn't function like us like Google Slides. No, unfortunately. You just have to duplicate it. So fancy Jamboard tips. I heard some questions that were asked throughout the chat, and some of these tips were actually in here. Create Jamboard background using Google Slides. I created the roller coaster slide Jamboard and the CER one through Google Slides. After I did that, I just saved the file or the slide as an image. Once you go to file, save it as an image, you'll go back into backgrounds and you just upload your picture. But I did that from just making my backgrounds in Google Slides. And if anybody uses Canva, you can create your backgrounds through Canva. I don't know everyone's level of creativity and tools you use, but if you use Adobe Spark, you can create your images there and you can save those images and upload them to Jamboard and use it as a background. So that's one fancy tip. Another fancy tip is go to cooltext.com for graphics. That's right. If you are not on top of it with Canva, you get a free premium teacher account, and it is the best thing ever. But Cool Text Fonts. This is a free generator. So you can use this to have some really funky fonts. Get rid of that ad. And I can make it say whatever I want. Create the logo. And I can download it. And once I download it, I'm going to save it as an image. And while I was playing with that, there's so many other things you can do. Maybe I don't want those colors. You could change the colors. You can totally personalize this. And once you personalize it, you create the logo and it's your image. And you can add those images on your Jamboard. So that's another really cool thing that you can do. Another recommendation, create a Jamboard folder in your Google Drive. And within that folder, create what you call your original Jamboards and your live Jamboards. Here's why. The original Jamboard, those are your originals. That's the one that you've created, and you're going to make a copy of the ones you want to share with students. So just in case something happens, you always have your originals to go back to, and keep them in separate folders. So just a little organization tip for you, especially during your Jamboard journey. You don't want them to get lost. Yes, cooltext.com. That was the name. What was the name of the website besides Cooltext? Oh, Canva. Are you talking about Canva? Yes. I'll show you that in 1 second. So before we wrap it up, let me show you what Canva looks like. This is Canva, guys. I have to schedule another session where, good question. I have to schedule another time where we can talk about Canva, but you can make anything in here. And if you get the educator account, it's all free. You can make Zoom backgrounds. You can make your own worksheets, your own flyers. You can make anything in here. And you can even have your students creating. This is the business, guys. I could spend a lot of time talking about it, and we don't have a lot of it, but Canva is where it's at. Yes, it is amazing. All right, somebody asked, how do I make groups? Good question. And yes, the educator account is free. You will have to Google how to find it, how to find the scholarship, because they ask for a little bit of information from you. Like they may ask you for your teaching certificate and all of that stuff. I'm going to drop that information here for you. But if you're trying to get the scholarship, this is where you will find it. All right, where was I? Yeah, you have to enter everything. But once you enter your school email, I changed it back to my personal Google. They didn't care. Okay, so let's get ready to wrap it. Oh, how to make groups. Thank you. How to make groups. Okay, so when it comes to groups, you can do a few things. Like I said, you can make your background already. You can't like assign groups, like it's going to say only group one, only these students can see group one. It doesn't work that way. You'll have to use your instructional toolbox. You have to use your instructional toolbox where basically, let's see, come on thing. I will say group one, and I will tell the students either ahead of time or I can write their names. Anne, Jennifer, Danica, did I say your name right? You guys are my group one. And I can make up to 20 of these. Right? Make up to 20 and assign my groups. That will be the best way for us to make our groups. And again, you can pre-assign those groups. Yes, using Jamboard for students to develop questions about phenomena. Absolutely, especially because asking questions is part of our practices. So they will only see their page. Nope, they'll see all of these. So remember, it's all about how you share it. If I'm sharing this as collaboration, they're going to see it all. If I'm sharing it as if I am sharing it as a individual assignment, they'll just see their only one. What if you have more than 20 kids and you want them each to have their own page? If you want them all on there together, that's one thing. You can do that. You have to do 2 boards. But if you want them to have their own individual, you'll share it as individual. Did that answer your question, Danielle? Okay, perfect. All right, so we're about down to our last couple minutes. So let's get ready to wrap this up, and I'll stay on for a few minutes for those who have a few minutes. But I appreciate you guys' time, and I appreciate any donations. They are definitely not required, but if you are willing to, if you want to, then this is my Cash App. I do this for free, but I've had people ask me before about donations. So there it is. How can I support you more? So here are opportunities, here are additional ways that I can help you if you need it. School-wide PD if you need it on tech, tools, and science, because like I said, nobody's checking for science. You ask somebody for instructional technology to talk to us about science. Oftentimes, we don't get to meet people who do both. They'll show us Jamboard, but not show us how it works for science. If you need help with NGSS implementation, I'm your girl for that. If you need me to virtual proof your current lessons, meaning help you with virtual learning, making sure I'm helping you with pedagogy and the correct instructional tools to meet the demand of your standards, reach out. I can help you with that. Develop Jamboard based standards. Develop standards based Jamboards, co-plan lessons with you. And if you would like this slide deck and your choice of any of the 3 Jamboards, I have the price for that if you would like to have it. So you can have the slide deck and you can have your choice of 3 Jamboards that I created, and it's yours and you can do whatever you want with that. So if that's something that you're interested in, I have it here for you. Let's see. And after that, create. I encourage you to create your own Jamboards. Get out there, try it. The best way to learn is by doing. Any steps you would like to take to book me, contact me here, send your request, and we will schedule times with you and get started. Here's my email. I'm glad to hear that. And that is it.